Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint Germain family. In today's video, I wanted to talk about Paris Saint Germain's squad depth because in recent games, obviously with all of the injuries, the squad depth has had to, push itself up, play and take responsibility when the starters like Ousmane Dembélé, Desiré Doué, Khvicha Kvaratskhelia, João Neves, Fabian Ruiz, Vitinha, all of these players have missed games. When they've been missing games, we've had to rely on our backups, but the backups, unfortunately, some of them are not good enough, and that's what we're going to be going through in this video right here. So we have all the PSG players in front of us. Hakimi, obviously a starter. So the first backup to talk about is Lucas Beraldo. I think the level that he's been playing at, he's obviously joined Paris Saint Germain in January. We all remember that Real Sociedad second tie. I mean, he surprisingly started the first tie ahead of Lucas Hernandez. But Lucas Beraldo, honestly, is not playing at a level I'm expecting from a player that has been here for a while. You know, when you get a huge talent like a João Neves, like a Desiré Doué, like a Bradley Barcola, like a Nuno Mendes, these players, they're good. They don't need time. Beraldo has been here for a while now, and I'm still struggling to see the future of Lucas Beraldo. Because when I look at a backup is supposed to put competition on the starters. He's supposed to make me think before the game. Should he start ahead of him? Should him start ahead of him? But I never have that with Lucas Beraldo. I've never had Beraldo should start over Pacho. Beraldo should start over Lucas Hernandez. Beraldo should start over Marquinhos. Beraldo should start over Zabarnyi. And that's a big issue. Zabarnyi, we just bought him in, and I'm already seeing him as, you know what, yeah, I can start games with Zabarnyi instead of Marquinhos. And you know, when it goes so long, so much time, because one of the main excuses people use for these backups is they're not given enough time. They need to start 5-10 games in a row. No, Luis Enrique sees enough in training. Luis Enrique sees enough in games, and we see enough in games. And I think Lucas Beraldo, it's a bit too much. It's a bit over. Obviously, he has from now until the end of the season to prove me wrong. But at the moment, I would be selling Lucas Beraldo and giving those opportunities to someone else. That's the thing, Paris Saint Germain have time. We give these players time. And if they don't do enough in that time period, they're clearly not good enough. And Lucas Beraldo, and the great thing with Paris Saint Germain's new strategy is basically all the players we're buying are young players. So if they do not perform, if they cannot step up to the level we're expecting from them, we can sell them and get a good profit. I think we bought Beraldo for only 25 million euros from Sao Paulo. We can definitely easily get that money back. Should not be a problem at all. But I don't think Beraldo is performing at the level. I think Beraldo has played here enough. And I'm always looking at the baby steps. When it comes to these players that are not at the top level, I'm always looking at the baby steps. And Lucas Beraldo, you see some baby steps versus Angers and Nantes and so on. But then when it comes to a little bit of an intensity game, yesterday, Lille, he is right there to block the ball, just lets it go through his legs. It's these mistakes that are costing us points and games. We saw Beraldo's performance. Pacho obviously injured in the Club World Cup, suspended for the Club World Cup final. Beraldo stepped in. It was absolutely horrendous. So Lucas Beraldo, if he doesn't step up in big games as well, when we are counting on him for the rest of the season, I think we should be looking to sell Lucas Beraldo. There are plenty of potential defenders, and not every single player that comes to Paris Saint Germain will succeed or has to succeed. Some of the players just come and go. That happens at every single football club. So Lucas Beraldo is the first backup that is clearly not good enough, and we should potentially upgrade upon. Marquinhos starter, Zabarnyi, I mean, I don't know if you want to call him a backup, but he's the perfect example of a backup. You buy him in, he puts competition on Marquinhos. Marquinhos is just injured for that Barca game, but I had confidence with Zabarnyi. Obviously, I wanted him to be tested for that game as well, but I had confidence in Zabarnyi, and Zabarnyi proved me right. Beraldo's been at this club for such a while, but has never given me that confidence that Zabarnyi has given me in barely a month. What that shows is the quality, the football quality and the mental quality. Moving on, Khvicha Kvaratskhelia starter, Fabian Ruiz starter. And there was a period where, Fabian Ruiz was competing with Warren Zaire-Emery for a midfield spot last season, but he won it amazingly and now he's a starter. Dembélé is obviously a starter. Goncalo Ramos is the second backup to discuss because I mean, how long do we have to discuss this? I discussed this in the first season of Goncalo Ramos. I discussed this last season of Goncalo Ramos, and I will be discussing it again. This dude is not good enough for Paris Saint Germain. He's played over 90 games. He started over 45 games for Paris Saint Germain and still hasn't shown us. That's why when I talk with a Goncalo fan or someone that is blind, I talk about Goncalo, and they're like, but Goncalo needs more time. He needs to start a couple of games in a row. Actually, no. No player needs the time that you are willing to give Goncalo Ramos. He's very impactful off the bench. I mean, definitely the best off the bench player I've seen at Paris Saint Germain. He recently broke Kylian Mbappe's record. Mbappe had the record for most goals off the bench, 16. Goncalo Ramos broke it, 17. And Goncalo, this is his third season. Mbappe's been at the club for 7 seasons. Obviously, Mbappe still started most games, so it wasn't that many opportunities coming off the bench for Mbappe. But still shows Goncalo Ramos has been very impactful off the bench during his time at Paris Saint Germain. But when you look at Goncalo Ramos, when he starts games in his first season, in his second season, and his current third season, it's clearly not good enough. He's not performing at the level we're expecting from him. He's not even doing simple actions that we are wanting from our player. You know, Luis Enrique doesn't have a striker in his system. He has more of a false nine, someone that is involved in the game, that can score goals. Like Ousmane Dembele can score goals and has scored a lot of goals for us, especially in big games, but can also be very impactful in playmaking, in linking up, in movement, in dropping deep. Goncalo Ramos doesn't have a single one of those qualities. Second of all, if you're a number 9, if you're immobile as Goncalo Ramos, if you're not a false 9, you gotta give us the upside of being a target man. He's neither strong, he's neither insanely dominant in the air, he's not clinical either, like at an insane rate, which you expect from a number 9. So I don't really understand what Goncalo Ramos gives Paris Saint Germain and gives the club. The main reason Goncalo is still at this club is Paris Saint Germain are trying to recoup the money we paid for him. We paid, I believe, 65 million plus 50 million in bonuses. So when AC Milan came calling last summer, Paris Saint Germain were asking between 50 and 60 million, which AC Milan were never going to buy. There were even Prem clubs that were interested in Goncalo, but when they heard the price tag, they were like, we can get better players for the exact same price tag. You know, Newcastle, they had a little bit of interest into Goncalo. They bought Wisa for the same amount, and I think every single club would buy Wisa for 50 to 55 million rather than splashing it on Goncalo Ramos. So I think Goncalo Ramos should be leaving the club. I'm very grateful for all of the moments he's given off the bench. Goal versus Barca, goal versus City. Keep them going for the rest of the season. But this has to be the last season of Goncalo Ramos, because we have seen Senny Mayulu given the opportunity in 2 games versus Atalanta and FC Barcelona. Those 2 performances, better than 95 to 99% of every single Goncalo Ramos performance. He even gave us a huge goal versus Barca, and I don't think Goncalo Ramos has ever scored a goal of that magnitude in a Champions League game when starting. Off the bench is a different thing, but starting, he just doesn't give us what we're expecting from him. So I think we should be moving off on Goncalo Ramos at the end of the summer, because nothing is going to change. Him and Beraldo, very similar position. They're not putting competition on the starters, and when they eventually play to take responsibility, they're complete woeful on the pitch. Moving on, Vitinha and Desiree Doué are obviously both starters. Now we come to 2 backups. Lucas Hernandez has always been very tough for me to talk about, because I love Lucas Hernandez. I genuinely love Lucas Hernandez. He has a great mentality, great positive energy. You know, he was so good for us. He was the best centre-back. He was better than Marquinhos in that first season. But obviously, had that ACL in the Dortmund game, came back, and just hasn't been close to that level. And yes, I know he looked good yesterday versus Lille, but the big picture is still that Lucas Hernandez should be leaving Paris Saint Germain at the end of the season. Unfortunately, the thing with Lucas Hernandez, it's unfortunate. This is not his level. These are not his performances. He's definitely not happy with, the level that he's performing at when we look back at the level he was performing at in the beginning when he signed for the club. But the thing with Lucas Hernandez, he's getting older. He has a really high wage. If we're going to recoup some money, it's now or never. Lucas Hernandez, obviously, going into the season, can take more responsibility, can be really good. So I think Lucas Hernandez is someone that can potentially change his thing, because he was really good. It's just the injury that is very unfortunate. But if he cannot come back to any great level towards the end of the season, I think we should be looking at offloading Lucas Hernandez, unfortunately. Next up is Kang-In Lee. Kang-In Lee, unlike Goncalo Ramos and Beraldo, is actually good at football. The issue with Kang-In Lee is position. Because Paris Saint Germain, a lot of games, I think the position Kang-In Lee has played the most in at Paris Saint Germain is right wing. That was not his position in Mallorca, that was not his position in Valencia, and that's not his position in the South Korean national team. So the issue with Kang-In Lee is we're not being able to get the best out of him. But to remove the excuses. When Kang-In Lee has gotten the opportunities in the midfield and in his preferred position, he still hasn't performed at that level. I still think yesterday was a good glimpse into seeing Kang-In Lee playing as a 6. Vitinha started every single game for Paris Saint Germain this season, apart from the Lille game. And I hope that Vitinha can get some more rest, some more recovery, and Kang-In Lee can play in the 6th position. Because if we can transfer Kang-In Lee to a 6, I mean, Vitinha was a little bit similar. He has been an 8, an offensive 8 for majority of his career. Lucho strictly started playing him as a 6. So I think Luis Enrique can do that with Kang-In Lee. And then he can be an impactful player, basically being the backup to Vitinha. And in that moment, I would keep Kang-In Lee. He doesn't have the highest wage. He has a lot of fans. He generates the club money. And he's actually a good professional football player, very humble as well. So Kang-In Lee is someone I'm on the side. I'm liking this number 6 experiment. Let's see how it goes for the rest of the season. But still, Kang-In Lee will be one of the backups I'm looking to offload. I don't think he puts enough competition on the Desiree Doués and so on. And Kang-In Lee, like Goncalo Ramos, has been at this club for a while. He's gotten many opportunities, but he hasn't been able to cement himself as a starter. We saw Desiree Doués come in immediately, younger as well, less experienced, and take his spot immediately. We saw the same thing with Barcola, and obviously the same with Khvicha Kvaratskhelia. And now we're even seeing Senny Mayulu and Ibrahim Mbaye give us interesting stuff in that attack. So the only future I see for Kang-In Lee is if we can somehow make him into a 6, and he will be a great backup to Vitinha. Maybe play in a double pivot in deep areas and so on. He's obviously versatile, which is a very good thing. He can play on the wing. He can play in the midfield. He can come off the bench. He had a good cameo off the bench versus Barca. But those 4 at the moment we've looked at, Lucas Hernandez, Goncalo Ramos, Lucas Beraldo, and Kang-In Lee, are currently on my backups. Not good enough, not putting enough competition on the starters, and we cannot rely on them well enough when the starters are unavailable. Nuno Mendes, starter, unbelievable player. Senny Mayulu, the main backup to talk about, because this is someone that is growing game by game. This is someone that's putting more competition game by game on the starters ahead of him. This is the exemplary backup I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking from Senny Mayulu. It's growth like this, not like Beraldo. Beraldo, it's slightly upwards, but then has his downfalls. Mayulu, I really haven't seen those downfalls from him. I'm seeing a very clear green projection going towards the top. He's putting competition on Dembele for the false 9 now that he's gonna start, and he's putting competition for Fabian Ruiz for that offensive midfield spot. We even saw him a bit deeper in the Lille game, so that can be something interesting to look forward into the future. Senny Mayulu, great backup, keep it going. Lucas Chevalier, starter. Bradley Barcola, another backup. And for me, the thing with Barcola is, once again, he's not putting enough competition on the starters, at least now in the beginning of the season. And, you know, with Dembele, Khvicha, and do it all out, we tried to rely on him in big games, and he just couldn't do it. Even in the recent game versus Lille, couldn't do it. And obviously versus Atalanta and Barca, he just wasn't good enough. And I'm not looking to sell Barcola, absolutely no. I'm just saying he needs to do better. He needs to put competition. You know, Kvara is out now, but I want to say, should Barcola start ahead of Kvara? Should Barcola start ahead of Doué? Those are the conversations I want to be having, but we're not having them because Barcola is not performing at that level. But not too much about Bradley Barcola. Safonov, very good backup from what we saw last season. We haven't seen him so far this season. And with Chevalier being a little bit shaky, maybe some strong competition from Safonov can help him. Warren Zaire-Emery, you know, he was a starter in Luis Enrique's first season, then became a bench player in the second season, and has fallen down the ladder even more. And Warren Zaire-Emery, the criminal thing about him is he's like 3rd, 4th vice captain, and has like the 4th, 5th highest wage at the club. And he's not doing anything remotely close to that. I mean, if Warren Zaire-Emery did not come from the academy, I think most PSG fans would want him out of the club. But because, you know, we want to see our players from the academy shine, you know, every club supporter wants that, we're still believing and giving more time than to Warren Zaire-Emery. But he has to up his level. He's recently not even been called up to the French national team because of his poor performances. And he just has to look himself in the mirror. Am I doing well enough? Am I putting competition on my teammates? You know, João Neves recently came in and has cemented himself in that spot. And we're not even thinking about Warren Zaire-Emery. Again, he's a player I'm willing to give more time. Plus, I've seen him play at a really high ability, unlike Goncalo, unlike Beraldo, unlike Kang-In Lee, and so on. But Warren got to step up because he's not been a good backup at all so far. Nua Kamara, still want to see more of him, obviously. Mbaye, cheeky, giving us something we lack a bit, pace, that dribbling ability. So very good to see that from Mbaye. Pacho Starcher, Joao Neves Starcher, and Marin here towards the end. And that finishes off the video. This has been a turbulent period for PSG, even though, we're sitting first in the league, won both our games in the UEFA Champions League. It's still been a turbulent period of the season with all the players that have been out, injured, and so on. And it's been a moment for the backups to, take responsibility and see how good they are. We've seen Zabarnyi take Marquinhos' spot with, I'm not even thinking about Marquinhos. But then we've seen Warren Zaire-Emery, we've seen Goncalo not being able to perform at the level. Same with Barcola. So, I'm very happy our starts are going to come back soon. I'm a bit tired of Barcola, Goncalo, and Mbaye ball. I'm ready for Dembouz, Khvicha, Desiree Doué ball. That's what I'm waiting for at the moment. But January transfer window coming. It'll be very interesting to see if Paris Saint Germain would want to strengthen its squad depth and maybe remove some of the backups from this team. That's been it from my boy PSGINT. Let me know in the comments down below. What backups are you ready to sell? Are you ready to sell Goncalo? Are you ready to sell Beraldo, Kang-In Lee? Let me know in the comments down below. That's been it from my boy PSGINT. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. And as usual, allez Paris.